Okay. Yeah, you can all hear. Oh, I can hear myself. So, hello, welcome. We are WorkSpot. So, my name is Jamie, and this is John. We're also at stand 28 in the main hall, but we really want to talk to you today about desktops, virtual desktops, WorkSpot, and really how we make insanely simple desktop as a service. And what we found with our customer base is really supercharged the way that they get productivity throughout their users globally. So a few faces here, John, myself 10 years ago, that's not me now obviously, Adam and Ashley who's just joined us. She joins us on Monday. Yes. She's very local. This is the UK EMEA team, so WorkSpot is based out of California. We're about 130 plus strong and growing quite rapidly, and what we're the UK stroke EMEA arm of the business. So we'd like to say thank you to all the sponsors on this main screen, and of course on this screen here we are as well as a gold sponsor in the middle there. So I think as we go along, just please ask questions as we go into more of the technology to give you a bit of a rundown of what we do and who we are and what we're about. So I think first of all, end user computing, there's a lot around end user computing. This screen here is the sort of like founders of WorkSpot. Interestingly, this team used to be very, very important to Citrix. And you see in the left-hand corner our CEO, Amitabh. He was the general manager of Citrix for Zen Desktop and Zen Apps. And he had about 100 engineers behind him. And he used to work for Mark Templeton, who was the CEO at the time of Citrix. And basically, back in 2012, Amitabh was very visionary. He could see that cloud was coming. And he went to the board and said, you know, can we reposition Citrix towards the cloud? It didn't really go any further than that at that time. So Amitabh broke away and formed WorkSpot, where we are here now. And now Mark Templeton, who was the ex-CEO, he's one of our board members as well. So what did they create? What is the technology? So WorkSpot is this desktop control fabric. So we're a multi-cloud vendor. We currently work with GCP and Azure, and we are hopefully going to have some more clouds to follow. But really what we do is we're the intelligence that allows organizations to deliver out desktops to users wherever they are in the globe. So we really utilize the backbone of the cloud environment, and our spin is this fabric that we've got here. So within that fabric, we've got certain elements we can do around security, we've got a network operations center as well that we've built, and this is the intellectual property that we own. We can do multi-regional disaster recovery, which is really important to a UK law organisation that we work with. And of course, we've got APIs that we can pull in, and we can do real-time SIM events and ITSM events. So that being said, I'm not the demo king, John is, so over to John.
So hopefully you can all hear me. If you can't, well, come closer. Can you hear me okay? Awesome. Okay, so I reckon you've probably seen a hell of a lot of PowerPoint. So rather than do PowerPoint, I thought I'd actually show you what a cloud desktop looks like. It sort of makes more sense than me telling you about it, yeah? So this is my physical environment. There it is. It's just a cheap and cheerful Lenovo. It could be a MacBook, it could be a Chromebook, it could be any of those types of hardware. We're agnostic to clouds and we're agnostic to hardware, okay? So all I have to do as an end user, and this is the end user's persona. So somebody who uses a cloud desktop or any desktop in a company will just use a physical device. You could have an Android phone if you wanted. So I've just clicked on the WorkSpot client. It's going to open up, and it's challenging me for my passcode. Now, my passcode, think of it like my PIN on my credit card. I've set it, only I know it. If I forget it, nobody can tell me what it is. I have to go through the forgetful process and get emails sent to me and re-establish and so on. Or this could be multi-factor authentication. I don't have the multi-factor authentication turned on because I don't want my phone ringing, yeah? So my phone's off. So I'm just going to put in my passcode. Have I remembered it? Yeah. And now I'm presented with all my cloud desktops. Now I've got a lot of cloud desktops because nobody's stopping me. So I can spin them up anywhere and nobody's yet counting how much money I'm spending, yeah? So I'm just letting myself go. But normally a user might have only one or two, okay? And this is a fully encrypted container. Nothing else is on this machine outside of this client, okay? And now I can connect onto my cloud desktop. So I'm going to hit this one here. This just happens to be in GCP. And this cloud desktop is going to automatically sign me in because my credentials are cached. You don't have to have your credentials cached. At this point, I could be being asked for my MFA. I could be being asked for my domain credentials again. It's up to you how you want to configure it. I'm not dictating. We never tell you what to do. If you want to let your users get to their cloud desktop quick, fine. Once they're inside the container, they can go. Or if you want to make it really hard for them, they can put their credentials in again, multi-factor, then put their credentials in again, and you can be really reducing their productivity. So this here is a genuine cloud desktop running in GCP. GCP is an awesome platform. I used to do a lot in Azure. I used to work for Microsoft, and GCP is brilliant. It really is. So much quicker than Azure. So I've got a 2.8 gigahertz machine, 4 cores, 16 gigs of RAM. So I use this for my PowerShell. Yeah, I just use it for PowerShell because it's better than having it on my physical device. I can come over here. If I hover over the connection, you can see I'm getting 9 milliseconds latency. And this is where WorkSpot starts to differentiate itself out from the likes of Citrix and AVD and so on. We're not heavily latency dependent. There's nothing between me and my cloud desktop apart from a gateway. Okay, this way I'm able to get to my cloud desktop without things being in the way. If I'm doing CAD, if I'm doing any of those computer-aided design packages like Revit, SolidWorks, it means I'm not getting a poor response from my keyboard or my mouse, which drives users insane, yeah? So to prove that, let me come into Notepad, and I start typing, and there is no spelling mistakes. Yeah, I might have got a couple of spelling mistakes in there, but I did quite well. But the important point is, you saw as I typed, the letters appeared. There was no wait, yeah? That's because I'm putting my cloud desktop near me. This happens to be in GCP in the UK, it could be in Azure in the UK, it could be in GCP in Belgium, it could be in Azure in Ireland. It doesn't matter, you choose. If you put your cloud desktop in Australia, then you will get latency because we cannot change the laws of physics. We get asked that question, but we cannot fix it, okay? So if you put your cloud desktop a long way from you, the electrons have to go a long way, and then they have to come back a long way. So you should put it near to the end users, okay? But you don't have to, if you want to aggregate into like a cheaper region of Azure, like North Europe or West Europe, that's going to be just absolutely fine. I can minimize that cloud desktop, and I can open another cloud desktop. Again, this is a GPU machine in Google again. I just happen to click on that. And I've got a very powerful machine here. This is a Tesla T4, so it's a very powerful machine. 50 degrees Celsius already, and I'm not even doing anything with it. Okay, so we can start up something like Venus, for instance, and run that. And now we start getting a cinema quality, sort of nice, smooth picture going on, yeah? And so I'm able to access my cloud desktops as an end user really quickly, and I can have multiple ones wherever I want to be. And once you're in the cloud, once you're actually able to use it, you can actually come in and start being more productive. And that's the reason why we're talking about productivity. So if I come over to my C drive, if I come into my documents and go into my files, I've got a 1.2 gigabyte file here. It's fairly chunky in size. This is on my cloud desktop C drive. If I copy that file, and I'm going to save that to my file server. Now my file server just happens to be in Oregon. It's in another GCP region, and if I do a paste, it's going to take, let's have a look, let's see what Windows says. It's going to take about, I don't know, 30 seconds or so to copy it across. Yeah, and it just starts to go really fast. If I was to try and save that from my home broadband, it would take me 40 minutes. So now I can save a file in 15, 20, 1 minute time, yeah, the 1 gigabyte, and be absolutely very quick. And so now you're getting the productivity of the end user. They're not waiting for infrastructure. They're not waiting for kit. They're actually being quick. So we've got customers who have designers who are dealing with these sort of size files all the time. Yeah, it's not uncommon for them to have an 8 gigabyte file. And when they click save on their, because they're all working from home at the moment, they've got to rely on their 6 megabit upload speed, and they basically click save and they go off and watch a film. Yeah, and that guy might be on £200,000 a year, and they're losing that guy's ability to be productive for the majority of the week. Whereas now, in GCP, for instance, they can save within seconds. Now, would you put your file server in Oregon? No, you wouldn't. You'd put it somewhere nearer to you, right? I just put it in Oregon just so that we could see it going a bit slower. Otherwise, it just moves too quickly, yeah? But that hopefully gives you an idea of what we're doing there. Any questions? Lots? No? Yes? Just waving your head. All right, cool. Okay, so that's what the end user persona is like, all right? That's all the end user needs. I can get to my cloud desktop using my Android phone if I want to, yeah? Any physical device. So I'm going to take off my end user's hat, and I'm going to actually be the IT administrator now. So all I need access to as IT administrators is workspot control. So if I sign in, hopefully I've remembered the password. Yeah, cool. So we don't have to use control to deploy out cloud desktops. Everything can be driven by APIs. So some of our larger customers, like NetApp, they use APIs to drive everything. They never ever touch the portal. They just use the APIs. They've got it linked into their service now. Somebody turns up at reception, requests a new laptop. They get one before they've got through the security barrier. Yeah? But for smaller companies, they might want to use something that's graphical because perhaps they don't know how to drive APIs. And personally, I don't either. It's a really boring demo because you hit something and it does it and you didn't see anything else happen. Yeah? So we've got this concept of pools, okay? So the cloud desktops live inside the pools, okay? So if I come down, this is my demo environment, so it's a little bit messy. And I've got a lot of cloud desktops here. And if I find my one, there you go. I've got my Google one here, and you can see I'm fully connected, okay? And that just happens to be this cloud desktop I'm on here. If I disconnect from it and refresh this, it's going to say disconnected, okay? There you go, it's disconnected. Now we haven't turned that machine off, we haven't powered it down, we haven't stopped it. That machine will do its own work behind the scenes, okay? Depending on the profile. So that machine can be reactivated and hit again by the end user whenever they want, yeah? So that's all taken care of. There's no administration about powering off and powering on needed from the end user or the IT administrator, okay? So let's create a pool of desktops. So I'll show you how easy it is. This is insanely simple. I could choose Azure, I can choose GCP. And we're going to be in AWS next year. So if I choose a template, and this can be your own image, you can have as many images as you like. And your images would have the software that's relevant for those end users. So your HR team, they would have software that HR uses. Your accounting team, they would have Sage accounts and Exchequer and spreadsheets and all those sort of things preloaded. And then every cloud desktop created from that template would have that software already installed. You still have to bring your Windows 10 licenses. You have to still bring your licenses for those software packages. We're not providing those. We're providing you the ability to create cloud desktops without needing to know the underlying cloud environment. GCP or Azure, it all looks the same. GCP doesn't look quite the same as this. Azure doesn't look quite the same as this. This being GCP is super simple. All these templates are globally aware straight off the bat, whereas in Azure, you have to have them in lots of different regions. So I'm just going to pick a Windows 10 image there, and I'm going to put it into the UK, all right? So I'm going to choose the subnet. My demo environment, I've only got one subnet. And now I get to choose the size of my virtual desktops. So I'm going to say I want a 2-core, 4 gigabytes of RAM with 128 gigabyte SSD. We only provision out SSD hard disks, all right? And they can be of any size you like, 128, 256, 512, on and on and on, yeah? Most people stick with about 128 unless they're doing big graphical workloads. Then it's around about half a terabyte or 256 gigabytes. And I'm going to call it SES, South Coast Summit Demo, yeah? South Coast Summit Demo, I'll put in demo here. And number of desktops, let's do 250, okay? So I'm going to spin up 250 cloud desktops, and I'm going to call it A1 SES Demo. This way it appears at the top of my list. Okay, actually, display name, yeah. Okay, cool. I'm just going to choose the gateway. You make sure you use the same gateway in region. You don't have to. This gives you failover and redundancy. I'm going to choose the domain. I've only got one domain. Most companies only have one domain. So workspot.demo, and boom, create. And there you go. In GCP, I'm now spinning up 250 cloud desktops with an image, all the same. It's that simple. I can spin up as many as I like in all sorts of places. So they're all provisioning. We can go and have a look to see how they're getting on. So they're all saying provision. If I open up another control, we can have a look elsewhere at what's going on. So while those spin up, we're going to have a look at them in about 5 minutes or so. So I make it about 1/4 past. Okay? So everything in WorkSpot is recorded. Okay, so me creating the pool of desktops has been recorded here. We keep this data for about a year, but it's your data, you can have it. If you don't want it kept for that long, you can configure it to be a month, or a day, or an hour, whatever you choose, okay? As you can see here, there's me connecting up to my cloud desktop. It took me 6.1 seconds. But nothing in the cloud desktop is being recorded in events because we can't see into the operating system. We can't see the operating system and any of the applications happening. So if I was in a spreadsheet, like I was in Notepad there, typing in, it's not recorded, okay? So we can never see your data. And I'll go through the architecture in a bit of why we're separated out, okay? So it's fully searchable, so I can go and have a look to see if a colleague is doing something, or I could type in an error code there and it'd take me to it, yeah? We're not a report writing company, but we do have reports straight off the bat. So straight away, you can start seeing what your activity's like in your cloud environment with your cloud desktops. Who is the biggest users, who's had the most connections, you know, which is the longest duration. All this data is available to you. You can just download it. It's your data. Yeah. We also have APIs to write your own reports with as well. But if you just want to put it down from as a CSV file, it's yours. Put it into Power BI, and away you go. We have policies. We never override your GPOs. Okay. So if you had a GPO that enabled everybody to do copy and paste, if I set it off there, we're not going to overwrite it. But if you haven't got a GPO, which is unlikely you will have to do copy and paste reduction, then you can actually turn it off for an individual user or a group of users or a group of machines. And maybe you'd want to say, I don't want to do screen capture and I don't want to do printing. And so for different scenarios of end users, maybe you've got a contractor team based in India and you don't want them taking screenshots of maybe credit card information, so you can disable copy and paste. You can also say, well, I don't want them to have local file sharing. You can turn those off with just a few clicks. This is super simple for the IT administrator to use. You can also enable a lockdown mode. If I enable lockdown mode, what that means is the minimize button and the maximize button, restore button even, that goes away. So I can either be in a cloud desktop or disconnected from it. I can't be both. So I can't slide my cloud desktop to the side and start some recording software to actually record what's happening in my cloud desktop. We can stop that. Now, does that mean we can stop somebody picking up their phone and taking a photograph of the credit card details on the screen? No, we can't do that, but there's other software which it can be watching people to do that as well. And we can watermark this screen as well, so if somebody does steal some information, their credentials or their information, I should say, like the user's name, can be actually put all the way across the screen. Very useful for call centers when they might be dealing with people phoning up saying, what's your credit card number, read it out, and that way they can't record it. Or we can try, particularly as everybody's now working from home in these call centers, there was a big spike in credit card thefts, but we've been able to help out there. Okay, cool. So you can turn those things off really easily. So let's go back and have a look. There we go. We've got 245 created, 5 failed. Do I care about the 5 failed? No. I can just go and delete them and ask it to recreate them. I don't really care, yeah? How long did that take? Well, about 3 minutes. GCP's really quick that way. And so there you go. There's all my cloud desktops already made, okay? All sat there. So if we go over to my client, you can see here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 10 icons on my screen, okay? Now, why don't I give myself that cloud desktop in GCP? So I can find myself. I can go, right, let's give myself that cloud desktop, assign it to me. I think it was A1, wasn't it? What was it called again? SCS, that's it. Yeah, SCS demo. There you go, forgot what it was called. And do a save. And now, if I go over to my client, in 10 seconds, I get my cloud desktop appear. And I can now click on that cloud desktop and I've got access to it. So I can push out a cloud desktop to somebody anywhere in the world in what, 5 minutes? That could have been the east coast of the US, that could have been Jakarta, Indonesia, that could have been Australia, it doesn't matter. Now this is a 2-core, 4 gigabyte of RAM machine, so it's not a particularly powerful machine. So Windows is going to take a few moments to start up. So what we can do, oops, I've exited it, let's go back to it. Just connect up again and let Windows come in of its own accord. But that would have been recorded, that there was John connecting to it, and now he's disconnected from it, yeah? So it's all recorded, and it's gonna, there you go, so hit the right button that time, and we'll minimize that back down. We'll come to it in a second. So that's really what Cloud Desktops is all about. Now that status sign there is an X because 5 failed. We can go trawling through to find the file, the 5, and then we can get rid of those. In fact, let's go and have a little look, shall we? I called it S, didn't I? Let's give it SCS demo. There it is. So all the others are now sat there, and somewhere in here there'd be 5 that have failed for whatever reason. Yeah, it's cloud. So I can just say, well, I want to get rid of a few of these. Just get rid of those ones because maybe I made too many. Delete, gone. But importantly, how much GCP knowledge did I have to have? I'm guessing in an event like this, most of us have touched Azure. I certainly have, yeah. So we're used to Azure. So some of you might have been sat there going, well, I've used Azure, I could have done that anyway. But as an end user computing guy who doesn't ever touch GCP, I don't need to know anything. All I need to do is use this interface. Where do I need my cloud desktop? What's the image? And how many do I need? And what's the size of those machines? And I can deliver them out. Does that make sense? Cool. And here you go. There's the cloud desktop that I pushed out. Let's have a look at the task manager. First time this machine's ever started. So there you go. It's a 2-core with 4 gigabytes of RAM. Pretty small, but it could have been an 8-core, 32 gigabytes of RAM. It could have been a GPU-enabled machine. It could have been any of those. Cool. So let me go back to my presentation. Let me make that full screen. So let's have a look at the architecture and how we're different. Okay. So as you can see here, we're in multi-cloud. AWS is to come. on the left-hand side in the blue box, that's where the cloud desktops are. In Azure, we're a CSP, so we're able to send you a URL. You click on the URL, and that creates a subscription in your tenancy. It's always inside your tenancy. We don't have to spin up inside your tenancy, but we've yet to get any customers who've actually said, no, let's have it outside, because otherwise it's not really legally theirs, yeah? So it makes a bit of craziness. Everything inside that blue box, everything in that blue box is paid for by WorkSpot. All the networking, all the storage, all the templates, all the images, all the egress, everything is paid for by WorkSpot. You only pay for the cloud desktops you spin up. That's it. And it's either a flat fixed monthly fee, because you've got a guy you know is going to be using it pretty much every day, so it's just a flat fee, because he's perhaps going to be in the company for another 10 years, who knows. Or we can do it down to consumption-based, so it's hourly charge, yeah? And it can be anything in between. You can have as many gateways as you require, you can have as many regions as you require, it doesn't matter. Each one of those cloud desktops does not have a public IP address. You give us your 10 range, it says so on the screen here, you give us the CIDR block. Your 10 range, your 192, your 172, as long as it's big enough to spin up enough cloud desktops, and that might be the reason why the actual provisioning failed. My subnet's probably not big enough. Because I deployed 250, and it's 256 subnet, so it's not enough IP addresses. There you go, just worked out why it failed. So every single, you give us the CIDR block big enough, and then that's fine. Now with GCP, that CIDR block can spread across the world. With Azure, it's region-based, but that's fine, yeah? So if you give us a /20, we can carve it up, yeah? Just don't give us a /27. None of the file servers are inside the blue box. The customer's data is never inside the blue box. It's in their project or their subscription, or subscriptions or projects, okay? And then that way they just travel across the VNet peer or the VPC peer if it's in GCP, yeah? None of these cloud desktops have public IP addresses. They can do. We've yet to have a single customer want that. None of these cloud desktops are addressable by port 3389. The end users here have to use the client or a browser. If they're using the client, then that is fully SSL encrypted, okay? And we're able to obfuscate the different ports, and we're able to change the IP address. And in fact, there's no IP address for the gateway, it's a URI, and the URI is being cycled. And it's the client which is talking to control to actually get the latest keys. I can remotely wipe the end user's client, WorkSpot client that is. So I can go in and say wipe, and it's gone. As soon as I connect it up to the client, I don't know if you noticed, it did a quick check with Active Directory. If I was no longer in Active Directory, every one of those icons would have gone away. If I still exist in Active Directory, then of course I might be able to still get to it, yeah? But you would manage that as normal. Importantly, WorkSpot is never inside the customer's data plane. So here, the end users are going remotely, directly to their cloud desktop. We're not inside the data plane. So that means the end user's credentials are never flowing through our control plane, and neither is their data. It's never here, it's never in the middle. I don't know if you can see that, actually. Can you see that mouse moving on there? I guess you're not. So we're never inside the data plane at all, okay? And that way we're always actually out of it, all right? If you haven't got your data in cloud, we can navigate down the express route or the interconnect onto premise. We need access to your Active Directory to make sure the cloud desktops are domain joined. Every single cloud desktop is encrypted, fully encrypted and domain joined. So if I was to grab this cloud desktop, drag it away, I could spend all the time and all the effort trying to decrypt it, but then I still wouldn't have domain credentials to sign into it. So we can't see your data. We can't access it. We never want to. Very different architecture to anybody else's environment. Like I said here, we never have access to your data plane. We're fully encrypted virtual machines, and they're always domain joined, or now Azure Active Directory domain joins available as well for Windows 10. We're adopting that. And some of the other cloud providers as well have other uniques, but we can accept them as well. Okay. So keeping users' productivity is absolutely key. Okay. Users are the key resource. Making them productive is important. IT often look at it as like, how many users can I get on this virtual machine to keep the costs low? They cram a load of people onto that virtual machine, and then the end users are wondering why they hit control or they hit compile, and it took them 5 seconds yesterday, but now it's taking 2 minutes. That's because they're fighting for resources on another environment. You never get that with WorkSpot. Every end user gets given their own virtual machine in GCP or in Azure, okay? And that way they get a consistent feel, and keeping those end users productive is absolutely vitally important, okay? Cool. I think that's about it. Did I miss anything, Jamie?
I think we covered everything. Did that make sense? Was that of interest? I think from our side, certainly from the business side, it's caused a lot of awareness. There's been lots of challenges from a business's point of view. How do I get those workstations? How do I get those cloud desktops to those users in those different countries? And we've, as a company, got some great feedback. So customer success is very good. So what we do at WorkSpot, we have a customer success team. They work with the customer pretty much all the way through the project. We have a support team, and we built our own network operations centre on the back end, so we're always proactively monitoring. In fact, we did have a case where we noticed the gateway go down, and we found out it was ransomware. So what we did is we obviously spoke to the client and shut down those virtual desktops on their behalf to make sure they didn't get infected. So we have those customers. We also have some very highly scalable customers as well. We have a certain motor manufacturer from East Asia with about 40,000 virtual desktops. The challenge was around the contractors that they bring in and how they secure that data. They only need the desktops for a certain amount of period of time. So from a cost point of view, it just made a lot more sense. Plus they were on an on-premise VDI solution, which was basically failing because of the latency issue. So there's lots of different scenarios, but one of the key things that we've found we've been very successful in is in the sort of AEC space, in the CAD drawing space. How do I get those graphics? How do I get those applications down to an end user remotely? That can't be done, and we've proven that it can be done. If you go to our website, there's many cases from Southland Industries to other CAD drawers that we have on our books. From our side, we're a very niche player. We're out of California, we're the UK or EMEA arm. One of the key things I think from ourselves and what we get is a lot of feedback from our customers about how we can build out the product further. So we tend to do a 4 to 6 weeks sort of like refresh, getting the ideas from all of the CIOs, and pushing that into the product. We have a team that obviously builds that out and then pushes that out to the clients as well. So we're very, very interactive with our customers because we're small enough to do it, I suppose. I suppose it's been about our strengths until we probably get bought or whatever happens in the future. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an insight around WorkSpot, what we're trying to create, and how we can possibly help you in any point.
There you go. As an end user compute guy, just went into Azure, created exactly the same, well, 5 cloud desktops in this case, exactly the same user interface. Do I need to know anything about resource groups, VNets, anything along those lines? Absolutely not. So we're just lowering the requirement for the companies to have skilled guys to be able to run this. Because their end user compute team, they're not actually ever touching cloud. And the companies don't want them to touch cloud because there's a fear that they might go and create, I don't know, an M80 or something. Yeah, or they might go and get a load of L's and just cost the company £60,000 in the first 10 minutes. And you can really stop that happening. And this, I've got God rights, so I can just pick anything, but we can actually do role-based, yeah? So you could say, well, this end-user computing guy, he's only allowed to actually create this type of machine and this number of machine, and that way, as a disgruntled employee, he doesn't spin up 250 of the largest cloud desktops and walk away, yeah? So we can actually stop that happening. Cool. And that Azure's a bit slower than GCP, so this will probably take about 5 minutes. There you go. They've got their IP addresses, they're online, so Windows is just basically starting. Their domain join, and in 5 minutes' time, they'll be up and running. And I can do that anywhere, over and over again. As long as you've got the region built, you're done. Our professional services are totally included, so we don't charge a penny for any professional services time. So if we actually, if I actually go back to the architecture, okay, so if you didn't know how to do that, how to set up this architecture, it's just a ticket, and we'll create a new region for you. Obviously, we need your IP range, but once you give us that, we'll just create it. And the meter doesn't start running. So you don't buy WorkSpot and then we say bye-bye and count the money you've given us. Our customer success team, a genuine customer success team, they're working with you. Got problems with your environment, you're just in touch with them, and you in fact know who they are. So in the UK, one of our customer success guys is downstairs, Adam, and he's actually going to see customers and they know who he is. He's an actual person, he's not a ticketing system where you send the ticket in and you might get somebody from India and then you reply back and there's another person who replies back and asks the same question, yeah? So we don't have any of that. Genuine customer success which is provided. Cool. If you want to know more, come by the stand or even talk to myself and Jamie up here. Thank you very much.